Oh, unfortunately, okay, special man. What? Oh, there was actually out back. Yeah, there was during the flood. I kept threatening to put a sign up that said pay late. Yeah, we could do without that before that. Hey, sorry, sir. We need, we need, right there. Good Lord, what do you think you're special or what? Yeah. Oh, Lord. Like Ron's. No, I got a Gatorade. When you sit down up there, turn your mic on for a second. Say something. It's right there. You know it. And John and somebody else were talking earlier about their upcoming vacations and all that. I was like, man, on my vacation, I'm going to Arkansas. Hey, that's kind of like a foreign country.
Check, check. I did it. I did have it on. I had it on earlier. Oh. Not yet.
Yeah, that's just.
It was somebody, it was some.
Here.
First time with that one. That's a new one.
Bad without hearing it.
Here he is.
Oh,
There
here it comes.
There he is. Now he's right on time.
There he is.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. This is Monday, April 21, 2025. The time is 7:00 p.m. I'm Doug Farnsley. I'm the mayor of Prospect. This is the city council regular meeting for the city of Prospect. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes, the March 17, 2025 meeting. Those have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as distributed? Second. Mr. Clark made the motion. Mr. Evans seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The minutes stand approved. Next item on the agenda is comments from citizens. We have two citizens signed up to, or two individuals signed up to speak. And then we have two other speakers who will speak in the course of the meeting as we go along on different items. So I will first call on Wheezy Gaines, who I met at Coffee with the Mayor on Friday, over there. And if you'll state your name and your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay, it's Wheezy Gaines, 4101 South Highway 53, Crestwood, Kentucky. And so I'm not I don't live in Prospect, but I'm a neighbor upstream from you all. So, and I first want to thank you all so much for allowing me to come speak today. And the reason I'm here is to give you all a heads up as to what's happening with your neighbors upstream in LaGrange. As you probably already know, we are battling Western Hospitality Partners that wants to place a hyperscale data center out in Oldham County, right in the middle of our farmland and residential. If you are unclear as to what a hyperscale data center is, here is kind of a quick explanation. They are enormous facilities built to accommodate vast data processing storage needs, which we all need. The cloud for all of our pictures, devices, streaming devices, AI, servers, and routers. So no one is disputing the need for something to house all of this info, but there are zoning laws for a reason, and it is zoned heavy industry, which has no place in farmland or residential.
So the land is zoned residential and
It's-
agricultural,
Yeah.
and they're trying to use it for
Yeah.
heavy industrial.
They're kind of sneaking it all around. It's not good. This huge, these buildings are, there's 8 warehouses that are about 2.5 million square feet and 7 stories tall. To kind of put that in perspective, Oxmoor Center is 960,000 square feet and 2 stories. So these buildings are just, it's out of control. And, you know, there's data centers are coming. They are here. They've taken over Northern Virginia and a lot of cities, and they kind of head up these farm towns and look for weak zoning laws, and they get in there. They hit the wrong county because we kind of, everybody is pulled together and has done a ton of research with the group that was started there called We Are Oldham County. So if you want more information on that, you can go to weareoldhamcounty.com, or if you're on Facebook, we have an updated information constantly going through there. The main reason I'm here, though, is not to go into all the fact, because we're battling that out here, but you all will be affected because of Harrods Creek. Harrods Creek and Ash Run Creek flow next to the proposed site where they were previously protected under the Waters of the Commonwealth. Recently, Senate Bill 89 was passed, which decreases state protection of groundwater, headwater streams like Harrods Creek and many wetlands, which leaves Harrods Creek like a sitting duck. Because all the data centers, especially hyperscale data centers, are massively energy hungry, they require a lot, like 150 megawatts of power a day, which is equivalent to powering a decent sized city. Because of all the power used, water is vital for a component for cooling systems. They can use 450,000 for a regular size data center, but they're trying to put a hyper scale data center out by us, which can go up to 5 million gallons of water per day, cooling, and substantial portion of that water is discharged back into the environment. It's said they use filtration, chemical treatments, and reverse osmosis to clean it, but you know, even if you have the clean, even if it's perfectly clean, and you discharge that amount of water into a creek where it's not supposed to be. I mean, we just all had the massive flooding, you know, and that was 7 to 8 inches of water that flooded Harrods Creek like crazy. So, you know, the fact is you don't mess with Mother Nature, because she'll mess back, and that is not going to end well for any of us. But I just really want you all to know and be aware of what's going on, and I brought flyers for anybody who wants more information or to get onto the website or join the Facebook group to, try to get more knowledge about what is becoming your way. So thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody.
Tell us what the next step in the process is.
Well, we've done a moratorium for the spot where they're looking at now. So there's gonna be 180 days, I think, where nothing can be done while they check out all the zoning and what can be done. And then, so it's under contract now, but the company hasn't bought it from the builders that own the property. That has not happened yet. So I think we're just all kind of waiting. Inviting, because we don't want it, nobody wants it.
Does it require rezoning?
Yeah, they'll do a CUP. I'm not sure what it stands for, but to change it into a different zoning, like they'll try to name it something different than heavy industry so that they can slip it in.
Are they going to discharge the 5 million gallons into the creek? every month?
So it won't be like it won't be a massive 5 million, but they'll evaporate some of it, they'll try to reuse some of it, but the fact of the matter is, it will get in the groundwater, and it will, with that much water. And I wish I could have pictures of the property, but Harris Creek is right there. I mean, it's beautifully close, right by this, it's an amazing property. Wish I was laying down. Yes,
Mr. Clark asked my first question. My second question is, who has the zoning authority over this property?
LaGrange, the fiscal court, I think,
The city of LaGrange?
yeah.
I think maybe Oldham County.
Okay,
So Judge
so
Lover.
where does that sit?
Well, that's what we're waiting on right now. They've done the moratorium, so that there's like 180 days where they are gonna work on rezoning or try to rezone. And come up with a plan. Because I think our government maybe thought, oh, it's great. They're very proud of the fact that they're a $6 billion company, and they keep saying it's gonna come back into it. But the fact of the matter is, the amount of power that goes into it and the amount of water, and they get a 25-year tax break, we're gonna all get saddled with the additional tax, so none of it makes any sense.
Has there been an environmental impact study?
They have done one, and we are Oldham County, and this has only been 3 weeks. We were just told out of nowhere, so we're kind of trying to get, professionals in there to do all the things other than their company. Because there's sinkholes all over the property. And they said they tested for, but I mean, unfortunately, growing up in Oldham County or in any smaller towns, people have been on this land forever and, horses have broken their legs and died falling into some of these sinkholes. I mean, it's all pretty sketchy.
And I think, did you say your son is here to speak also?
No.
No. Well, I've got Nick Russ also signed up to speak.
Oh, we thought we were just signing in.
Oh, okay. But you're welcome to speak. You're signed up.
We just like small.
I think he's giving you his time.
Yeah, right.
Do you know the source of the water? Is it a well, or do you know if they're doing public water?
The aquaporт, but underneath Oldham is evidently massive. So I think, that's what I asked somebody the other day. All we got kind of headquarters of the coffee house cafe up in LaGrange. And the leaders of our group, We Are Oldham County, have so much knowledge on this. I barely to be dangerous, So I was talking to somebody there today, and they said, what about, are they gonna do what they did with the VA hospital? Are they gonna, that's not even in it renderings, but they said, I think they would pull from the aquaporт communities.
Weezy, let me suggest, you got your flyers here? Do you have these?
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and give one of those to each of the council members and to the people in the audience also. So we appreciate you being here. We're used to people coming in Okay, the next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. I will begin my report this evening by advising that this is for the council, please listen. I'm canceling the May 19th council meeting. I made this decision based on our discussions at the last two council meetings and on our recent exchange of emails. In place of the May 19 meeting, I am calling a special meeting that will take place at 7:00 p.m. on Monday, June 2nd. 7:00 p.m. on Monday, June 2nd. The special meeting will include my budget message and the presentation of the proposed 2025-2026 budget for a first reading. In addition to consideration of the budget, the meeting will include other items that would have appeared on the agenda for the May 19 council meeting. Next, I will report on 2 recent events in the city and on 4 upcoming events. And finally, I will briefly discuss proposed capital improvements to US 42 and a significant proposed improvement to our parks. On Saturday morning, April 12, a group of 9 volunteers picked up trash along US 42. I extend the city's thanks to police officers Joe Manning, Barb Shepard, and Mike Thomas, who helped keep us safe as we walked beside the highway. Thanks also to Public Works Director Ron Cundiff and his team member Gannon Pendergraft, who filled City Hall's dumpster with the trash collected by the volunteers. Second, this past Saturday, April 19, the Parks Committee sponsored a wildflower walk in Harrods Creek Park. Jacqueline McGrath and Carolyn Embry led the walk. The 14 appreciative adults and children who participated enjoyed seeing and learning about the beautiful wildflowers that are currently in bloom. Upcoming city events include a production of Macbeth by William Shakespeare at 1:00 p.m. this Sunday, April 27. Kentucky Shakespeare will present the play in the John Evans Pavilion in Little Hunting Creek Park. I encourage everyone to attend. In 2023 and 2024, residents and visitors enjoyed productions of Hamlet and A Midsummer's Night's Dream. I'm confident that the production of Macbeth this Sunday will be equally well received. A second upcoming event is the library's book sale. The sale will take place from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. on both Friday and Saturday, May 16 and 17. I extend the city's thanks to our library volunteers for the great job they do in the library and for their efforts in organizing and carrying out the book sale. The third upcoming event will take place on Thursday, June 5, when I and members of the council and of the Architectural Review Committee will travel to Carmel, Indiana, to learn more about roundabouts and about how Carmel's city government operates. Carmel is a suburban city north of Indianapolis. In the past 25 years, Carmel has established a reputation as having enlightened city leaders. This will be, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that Prospect's mayor and council members have visited Carmel. And I participated, I guess, 3 years ago now in a visit to Carmel. Finally, on Saturday, June 14th, Prospect will hold its second Kids Fest in Little Hunting Creek Park. The 2024 event, under the leadership of Sally Schneider and David Holmes, proved to be a big success. I appreciate the efforts made by Sally and David to make this year's event equally fun for Prospect's families. Turning from recent and upcoming events in Prospect, I will comment briefly on proposed improvements to US 42 and on the proposed boardwalk that will extend from City Hall to Putney Pond. In July 2022, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet published the Prospect US 42 Transportation Planning Study. That study recommended the roundabouts that the Cabinet plans to build on US 42. In addition to the roundabouts, the study made 7 further recommendations, including, among others, left turn lanes from US 42 into Sutherland, into Innisbrook, and onto Rose Island Road. On April 9, I met with our representative in the Kentucky legislature, Ken Fleming. I reviewed with Ken the recommended projects. Ken responded positively to the proposed projects and to our stated desire to have all the projects implemented. Ken asked that I send to him our preference as to how the projects should be sequenced. Don Gibson and Herb Schulhafer then helped with ranking our priorities. This past Friday, I sent our proposed sequencing of the projects to Representative Fleming. The first preference we listed was improvements to the hill from Bridge Point to the Harrods Creek Bridge. The second priority we listed was the Putney Pond Boardwalk. The 5 additional projects followed. I believe we have an excellent opportunity to have the proposed projects receive funding from the state. The outcome will be a significant improvement to our parks and a substantially improved US 42. That concludes my report. Next item on the agenda is financial reports. John Carter, please.
A quick summary of March's financials. So cash on hand consisted of our investments with KLC, which was 1.6 million with the money market account, 1.9 million in the EIF fund, which equity and income fund, and 82,000 in the S&P 500. And 77,000 roughly in checking, grand total of about 3.7 million on hand, of which we have 2.4 million unrestricted and available to spend. So I found out that March is our lowest income month of the year. Evidently, we only made $26,000. That being said, we are on target with both revenue and expenditures, particularly if we pass this budget that's before you tonight, the amended budget that's before you tonight. And quick recap, I did misstate last month the restricted road aid. The actual balance of that currently is 185,000. I mistakenly think I told you 300 something last time. And the capital project fund currently stands at 97,000 and change. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for John? Thank you, John, for that report. Commission and board reports. Linda Knox, Forestation Board.
Guess I better show this before I drop it. We have a new plaque for Tree City, and we also have some other treasures they just sent us, including, I'm not sure where we're gonna put it, but 17 years. Now we've got to enjoy here. There's some other things that, you know, we want to use the sign if we can, but what we've been focusing on is the canopy program. We planted everything last Thursday, which is great. We had to delay it because of the rain and then getting the utilities marked, but it's a done deal. And it's been interesting. I think the word is starting to get out in the last few weeks. I can't tell you, I've had quite a few emails and inquiries coming through the city asking about the program. How did they participate, or they knew somebody that had participated? And we actually have one family that they just got their 3rd tree. They are so excited. They've gotten a different tree every time. And so I talked with this person. I said, once everything is settled in and everything's leaved out, we're going to go over there and take pictures and talk to her about the experience and do a nice article for the newsletter. So we're pretty excited about that. But when we look at the canopy tree program, there were 7 different areas in the city that took advantage of the program. So that shows that the word is getting out, and we're just pleased to see that people are participating. We've got some ideas. We didn't give away as many as we wanted to this time. And so we're going to work on that too, because our goal was 20 trees. We didn't get 20 trees. And it was 11 trees. So we've got ways to go. And all of that was covered. And we did talk about the report, the different species that were involved. And so if you've got any questions on that, let me know. Now that things are leaking out, we will become more active with code enforcement and reviewing some of our problem trees to see what shape they're in, having come through the winter, and then take action as needed. So that's pretty well where we are right now. We are working on the Tree City plan. We have a rough draft that's out to the members of the Forestation Board. I've had a couple of comments come back. Minor in nature, so until I hear from the rest of the board, we'll finalize it and hopefully maybe this week, but it will definitely be done by the end of the month. So we're looking forward to that. That's it.
Thank you, Linda. Any questions for Linda regarding the Forestation Board? Thanks so much. Please extend our thanks to the full board. Investment Committee, John Clark.
Thank you. Investment Committee reports to the council quarterly on the results, conditions of our investment portfolio, which John recapped a few minutes ago, our total investments at the end of March, 3.688 million. And that is divided, as he said, between the money market fund, the enhanced income fund, and the S&P index fund, which is a exchange traded fund, which we put $5,000 a month in, and are continuing to do that. We made a decision to continue to do that, and no changes to the other allocations. Annually, we're required to review the policy, the investment policy, which we did, and we found it in compliance. We're in compliance with the policy and the state statutes that govern the policy. So, and our returns have been a little bit north of 4%. Those are probably going to drop a little bit in the coming months. So a little volatility in the market, but we've done an excellent job, Johnson. Yes, we've exceeded the interest income for the year in March. So we've been very lucky.
And the statute and our policy limit the amount we can invest in different categories. And I think in equities, it's a 10% or maybe 20%, something like that.
It's 10%. It's very specific as to what you can do. So we're taking a very conservative posture with the city's investments, obviously, which is very appropriate.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate any questions for John. Appreciate your work with the committee, John. Next item on the agenda are reports, other reports, Jefferson County League of Cities. Sandra Leonard, please.
The Jefferson County League of Cities had their annual meeting, and the speaker was in essence telling us all of the changes that have occurred legislatively in the last year. JD Cheney and another young lady whose name escapes me because I'm name impaired. Anyway, there was a lot of activity for such a short period of time. And the Kentucky League of Cities, which sponsors a lot of the home rule city related legislation, were quite successful in a lot of things that help home rule cities. The great bulk of the ones that they did tend not to have an effect on Prospect because we honestly don't have some of the problems that some of the other cities have. But other than that, there are some other items that are coming up, and we'll see how those end up playing out. But the bulk of the implementation of the new legislation will not affect us.
Thank you, Sandra. And Don Gibson was also in attendance on Tuesday night, Wednesday, this week.
Yes.
And it was a very good meeting. The speakers were very good. Don, anything to add?
Yeah, just one of the points that the speakers made on the recent state legislation. They're much more interested in getting into city activities than they've ever been.
The state is, yeah.
Things like how about the minimum amount of vacation for police and a whole litany of things, how the city operates, and they've never done that before.
But the good news is Jefferson County League of Cities will again sponsor JCLC night at the Bats. So everybody in Prospect who volunteers or who serves on the council will be invited to a baseball game. So we hope you'll participate in that. Next item on the agenda is Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Please.
Billy stole all my thunder. So the past month, the committee sponsored 3 events. We had the Highway 42 cleanup on Saturday, April 12th. We had a hike and listen lecture on Saturday, March 22nd, which was well received. And we had the wildflower hike on April 19th, and 10 people attended. One other hike was canceled on April 6th due to the high water. ICF has submitted an estimate for FY26 for removal of invasive species in the area recently acquired by the city located adjacent to Putney Pond. Next up, we'll have to focus on the cleanup of the debris area and then figure out what we want to plan for the area. Surprisingly, the trails are in decent shape after the flood waters have receded. Like all of them, and 2018, they were a mess. At this time, it really didn't seem too bad there. So, and the committee is also sponsoring various concerts and events for Little Honey Creek Park, starting to make that on Sunday. And there'll be one concert of mine May through October. And the Prospect Chamber of Commerce is, it's going to help promote this. That's it.
Thanks, Tina. Any questions? David?
Tina, I just think we need to mention in terms of upcoming concerts beyond the Macbeth concert is the first band will be May 18th, Sunday, May 18th, and it's Rumors, and they were a very popular band last summer. So that's something people put on their calendar.
Thank you. Thanks, Tina. I should have mentioned Tina chaired the 42 cleanup, so we appreciate your efforts. I received a copy of a very nice letter that Lee's wife, Sandy Tucci, sent to Linda Wardell on March 25th. And it's short. I'm going to read it. Dear Linda, this is about talking about Linda stepping back from being quite as active on the Parks Committee. What a loss it will be when you and Kevin leave Prospect, but what a gift you leave us with. Many years ago, I watched you gather up your courage at council meetings to advocate for parks. Many saw only thickets of trees, underbrush, dead wood, and a home for animals. The paths were from deer and a few adventurous residents and teenagers. You and Stuart Miles saw much more, the potential for beautiful views and exercise walks, quiet places of escape, and for creating memories. Through multiple councils and mayors, you succeeded in gaining the financial support for improvements while building and leading a great team of contributing volunteers. All this while in recent years dealing with family health problems. The park system you had Prospect create will continue to bring many benefits to residents and others. Thank you so much, Sandy Tucci. And we recently adopted a resolution that the bridge in Harris Creek Park, the new bridge will be named in Linda's honor. And Linda will attend a future council meeting as her schedule permits, so she can make some comments. I neglected to ask her to make comments the evening we adopted the resolution about naming the bridge for her. There were many wonderful comments made by others, but she'll come back to speak to us. So. Tony Denham, police report.
Just a few things to overbrief tonight. The citation has been very consistent. But thank Tony Leish, retired officer, even now our secretary, does a lot of our work and follow up, and he's been missing him from the community. Although turned an adult, still sitting aside, probably did a fabulous job. We'll follow that case up, staying in touch. He's in Lexington, and we had some not real contact with him, the family that he's there. It's located this week. We did a lot of fun. So I want to thank everybody for everything. No doubt, family quite a bit. Names located to be stated out of the system. Some people are having some issues. Some solicitors that are coming in at different times, and we had a roofing issue. I think over at Sutherland's. When they come in the neighborhood, make sure you can call us. Obviously, sure. But a lot of times, I think what I'm seeing happen is these people come in to get a permit in Jefferson County. They have no clue they have to get a permit with us. And that's not nice with solicitors, with a lot of other things. So that you can let them know they do have to get a permit. They can't, they're not allowed to work in Jefferson County. Now, one thing to remember about that too, though, if they do get a permit and your HOA still has the rules, you can't enforce HOA, just be aware that if they actually have a permit in our city, we can't enforce it. So just make sure you're covered everything. I'm here today to see if I can or 6 o'clock. But please give us a little bit of leeway to make sure you know what we're never there. So, two things, just a little bit of things to talk about. Bridge one notice is just happened. Not the next one. Friday night, Saturday morning, We had the crew come back out here, that gets tries to get into my mock vehicle. A lot of times, unfortunately, we have residents through the, not just unlocked, but the whole standby garage door in the car when it's on. Please don't do that. Please put the word out. I don't know how many times we have to put it out, but please make sure you stop doing that. So they were able to get in 2 separate garages, but within 2 minutes, one Bridgepoint, which is right at the corner of Bridgepoint and Oak Creek, an officer was standing in the garage within 2 minutes when the kids were in the garage, just missed. Nothing was taken, but the vehicles that were unlocked containing the garage door openers, which allowed them access to the house. Now, they called the area, the 2 officers we had working that evening. We never had a so the guys who were getting up there that quick. And then from calling the film, you can see it plain as day, their cameras. They walk up, they check the car, it's locked. They walk off, they check the car, it's unlocked. They all in the garage. So it's just, it's 1 + 1. It's very, very simple. We're going to continue to educate the department. I want to emphasize how having our officers out here that quick, there's no doubt in my mind, that kept them from doing anything else out there. Because I'm pretty sure whatever vehicle they left in, they saw the police from everything. So they decided to exit stage right. Unfortunately, they go to our, yeah, I probably right. But another thing that really is disturbing, I talk about this almost every meeting, is the fraud. And I think we're going to look at a few other pieces of, I think we're doing an excellent job of educating people. We've been growing Ken, and one of our great residents, retired FBI agent, Terry Rainborn, did almost 2-hour seminar here that we had about 40 people here from our community to let them know about being scammed. And I told you in the last meeting about right before we had that, we had about $30,000 scheme. That has turned into a borderline criminal case of about 400,000. These people take advantage, especially of elderly. And I say this every meeting, and I'll continue to say it. If you have anyone, especially your family, we all have parents, loved ones that sometimes don't like what's to us. They can call. I like it was 2 days long. If you want them to hear a different voice, please call our office. And the most elderly people do not have cell phones, get phone calls, and that's where they target them. And these folks, the main thing is to tell them to never answer the phone. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. Because they AI clones, they have different voices now that they're using. They can make you think there's a family member involved. They are very, very convinced. But that is just another case. We're running it through the county attorney's office. This was turned to the law. This person took advantage of the other person, but that's all the story. So please, if you have any cases like that, if you have anybody that wants to speak, please tell them to talk about it. But we're probably going to explore some other avenues of trying. That was very well handled that day that we had that, and maybe different things in the newsletter. We just want to make sure everybody's. Any questions? There's no doubt question. Because these people are very good. And this is just the other. There's people that are younger, that just get scared. That's what they play. But that's really it. Frustrated.
Any questions for Tony?
Yeah, Tony, I see you've got 66 citations warnings, which is up.
Yes.
And thank you for that.
Yes.
Any idea how many of those were on 42?
Quite a few, especially what I've seen a little bit up here lately is with everybody else for the roads, we had a reroute. We've had a lot more traffic. I can say exactly, we've got a lot more traffic. If you come out of City Hall, even during the daytime now, I think you probably do notice there's been an uptick with this rerouting of traffic for the road out here. So we tend to hit it a little bit later in the evening, but if the guy will do that. I'd say the main focus during the time. They would be pretty good too, especially up here on the middle of Foxhole. And some of them so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chief, can you tell us where these 6 collisions occurred and the non-injury and the injury, two injury?
Usually almost all of our accidents are up around 42 on River Road. A couple of them were just up here, right up, three, right up that way. So mainly, probably number one right now, of the rear ends at 265. That are right here coming off, right? That's, we probably had more of those. That has got a little busy. And it's just intersection. It's just really.
Thanks.
So the discussion about door-to-door sales earlier
Yes.
hit home with me. So the individuals who are doing that have to have a permit to do it issued by the city of Prospect. And they are restricted, pretty significantly restricted in the hours that they can do it. I think it's maybe 4 to 7 PM, John, do you remember?
From my memory, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think you're right, 4 to 7. There are only 2 companies currently licensed to do any of this right now. And they all have little badges that we've provided.
So if they're showing up other than Thursday, Friday, Saturday, between those hours, they're not permitted to do that.
And we run them, so we get about an acre.
So,
Yes.
no, you go
But the
ahead.
biggest thing is some of these companies are coming from out of town and they hire our kids. They hire college kids to come out to communities and neighborhoods. But what they do is they obtain Jefferson County permit and they don't know that they have to get one either.
Right.
And then usually they'll either, basically what I say is from Snyder up here to the Owen County line on both sides of the road, you get a permit or you can't. And most times they just leave on.
And the people who are doing this are pretty effective salespeople
Very.
and pretty pushy. So I asked one young lady, did she have a permit? She said, oh yeah, we've got a permit. Well, they may have had one in Jefferson County or Louisville, but they did not have one in Prospect. And we called that company and they pulled all their salespeople out of Prospect.
That's it. A lot of times it's just they go.
Okay, well, thanks again, Tony. All right. We are moving to unfinished business. The first item under unfinished business is the second reading of ordinance 648, which is an ordinance relating to building regulations. It has to do with pool houses. So we had, and I think there's been some further work on this or suggestions.
That's
the second one, okay. So is there a motion to give a second reading and approval to ordinance number 648?
So moved.
Mr. Gibson moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Clark seconded. Is there discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holmes?
the last time this came before us, I had a question about why they picked 3/4 of an acre to have pool house on. And the size limitation doesn't make any sense to me, frankly. There is no limit on the size of the pool, no maximum, no minimum of the size of the pool you have. There is only a maximum of the size of the pool house. There's not a minimum size of the pool house. So if you have a 3/4 acre lot, depending on the size of the house that you have, there's a minimum size of the house you have to build on a certain acre lot, but there's not a maximum size necessarily. And where you would locate the house on that 3/4 acre lot, you could have the same size backyard as you would have in a 1/2 acre lot, depending on where the house was located on the 1/2 acre lot. So the whole concept of saying we should limit it just to 3/4 of an acre seems to me limiting it for just the estates of Prospect that have 3/4 of an acre. And I don't think that's fair for the people who have smaller lots, but can design a pool and an appropriate size pool house to fit on that lot. I don't think we should restrict people from using their yards if they choose to do it that way. Don and in talking with Don says, well, we could put some limitations on this, where setbacks on the pools that you would have in a smaller lot or something. I've got no problem with that. But the problem I have is the way we've got this designed, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And we're restricting the public too much on the use of their property.
And where did these numbers come from? I mean,
From the Architectural Review Committee came up with 3/4 of an acre.
And actually, the whole issue has been in the past that pool houses could not be an outbuilding unless it was a larger lot. You could have a pool house on a smaller lot, but it had to be attached to the house. It couldn't be a separate outbuilding. But I hear what David Holmes is saying. It almost is like we've got so many words down here, they're not really saying what we want them to say. On the other hand, I have to thank whoever wrote this. I had a big problem with this last time because they were talking about a green barrier or a living barrier. And quite frankly, a green barrier could have been a fence painted green, and I didn't think that made sense either. And I appreciate the way it's been changed. I think they did a good job.
So let me just mention, if I could, David. So the current ordinance in the city of Prospect is you cannot have a detached pool house unless you're on a 3-acre lot.
That's correct.
So this actually expands the number of houses that can have a detached pool house.
It's true,
Just a
but
pool house.
it's limiting it.
It is limiting, but it's much less limiting than what we currently have.
I understand that. I'm in favor of allowing us to have pool houses, especially since the regulation says you can't have you can't have a residence in there. It's not living, it's just for the use of the pool. But what I'm saying is it doesn't make sense because we don't have a size of the pool and we don't have any setbacks on the pool sizes. And we don't have a minimum size of the pool house. So why can't I have in my 1/2-acre lot, a pool that's smaller than what somebody's going to put on a 3/4 acre lot and a smaller pool house? It doesn't make sense to
Well, you
me.
can, but now you'd have to attach it somewhere.
Yeah, and
to your house.
that's very, that
It may
can be
not be.
complicating.
It could be.
And more expensive also.
We've had several of those in Sutherland, and that's what they've done. Oh, well, there's no. But in general, what they usually do is they create an arch or something from the house to where they're going to put it, and it looks fine.
All right, let's line up with different individuals speaking of this. It's not going to be a conversation. Mr. Gibson.
What I was gonna say, isn't there an opening for a variance? If someone has less than 3/4 of an acre lot, 0.70 versus 0.75, to seek a variance?
Yeah, what I would say is this ordinance expands what we currently permit. And anyone could seek a variance. There was demand, I've heard individual people who wanted this kind of an amendment. I have not heard, other than David speaking about it, which is very rational and thoughtful comments. But there has not been any demand. Gee, let us have a detached pool house on a smaller lot. So this isn't my ordinance, but I do think it's important to note it does expand the opportunity of people to have pool houses beyond what it is now, to the extent that a member of council or member of the public feels it should be modified to expand it further. I think that's something we can consider another day. In the meantime, we can consider this, or we can approve it, or we can disapprove it. That's the
Well,
council's prerogative.
What I'm suggesting is that I make a motion that we amend it, the 3/4 acre down to a 1/2 acre.
All right, where is that in the?
And that would be at
To
page
paragraph
3,
L, all the way at the
section
bottom.
L. Second sentence, well, not second sentence, second line in the underlined section of the new
Oh, I see.
section.
And it's, instead of 3/4 an acre, your motion is to change it to lot of half acre or more.
Yes,
Right? Is there, that's a motion to make that amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Right, there's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion to amend? That is changing it from 3/4 of an acre to half an acre. Any further discussion on that? Rob, are we ready to vote? Sandra Leonard,
No,
John Clark,
Yes.
David Holmes,
yes,
John Evans,
Yes,
Don Gibson.
Yes,
And Christian Furman.
Yes,
And so what do we have? 5-1, so that amendment is approved.
so we need to ask our legal counsel whether the reduction of that would require another first reading, or can we go straight to the second reading tonight?
Is that a subsequent
We've gone,
one
we've
change?
made it less rather than,
no, I think you can go ahead.
I was hoping that.
Okay.
So now we're back on the main motion to give the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, a second reading and to approve it as amended.
As amended.
Is there further discussion on the motion as amended? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Christian Furman,
yes,
Don Gibson.
yes,
John Evans.
Yes,
David Holmes.
Yes,
John Clark.
Yes.
Sandra Leonard.
yes,
Okay, so that ordinance is approved, and I'll ask Mr. Gibson to read the title, please.
ordinance 649, series 2025, an ordinance relating to the amendment and modification of chapter 154 swimming pools of the Code of Ordinance City. of-
648.
We'll do this again. City of Prospect, ordinance number 648, series 2025, an ordinance relating to the amendment and modification of chapter 150, building regulations of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Prospect.
And according to the agenda, this says, this ordinance amends building regulations to allow for the construction of pool houses on certain residential lots. Okay, so that's approved. Move to the next item on the agenda, which is a related proposed ordinance. It's ordinance 649, series 2025, and that has to do with regulation of pool houses, and I think primarily of equipment associated, excuse me, not pool houses, of swimming pools, and particularly with equipment on those of swimming pools. So is there a motion to give a second reading for ordinance 649?
I move.
Go back.
Okay, Ms. Leonard made the motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Gibson seconded. Is there discussion?
Are people that don't have their pool equipment screened now grandfathered in?
Yes. I think
That was it.
I think that's our conclusion. Without this saying that, I think they're grandfathered in,
Okay.
unless it explicitly provides otherwise.
correct.
So we have on this a recommendation from the Architectural Review Board to change the language that Ms. Leonard referred to earlier and remove the word green barrier. And then this is on a separate sheet. So I'll entertain a motion to amend ordinance 649 to adopt the Architectural Review Committee's recommended language for the ordinance for section 154.06, screen of pool equipment.
I'll move. That's a good change.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Clark moved. Ms. Leonard seconded. Is that right, Sandra?
Yes.
Is there discussion on the motion to amend?
yes, I have, so what we just approved, this ordinance at the very back, like what you were saying, Sandra, says it took out that green that says shall be screened and placed. It's like should have the same language both places.
This is the only place the green barrier language appears.
Okay, so this says pool equipment such as pumps, filters, heaters. This is the 648 one that we just approved. It says chlorinators, UV, ozone systems. This is on page 4.8. and pool vacuum system shall be screened and placed at least 10 feet from the nearest property line. And so at least 10 feet from there, so this one, it's the revised one takes out the green barrier and it talks about the shrubs and hedges. But this one doesn't talk about the shrubs. It seems like it's just be the same language both places, you
That
know?
makes sense.
So
So the green barrier language is in the ordinance we just approved.
the one that we just approved does not have the green, it took out the green barrier, but it didn't say the other stuff about the
It's meant
hedges.
to reference, it's
Maybe-
actually meant to reference back to. what you're
See, oh, yeah, it does
considering
say,
now.
see section 154.06. So it would be then, this would take precedence in section 156.06. Okay, and so the one that we're talking about right now has more details in there that takes out that green language. Okay,
Okay, so we're considering an amendment to ordinance 649, change, deleting the words "a green barrier" from section 154.06. That's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion to amend? If not, we'll move to a vote on the motion to amend. Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Dr. Furman?
yes,
Okay, that is approved by a vote of 6-0. That's the motion to amend. We now return to the ordinance 649 as amended for discussion. Is there any further discussion on ordinance 649 as amended?
I have a question. On page 3, it's the very, like the third sentence down, it says all gates shall be self-closing and self-latching. It's like it should be locked. Does that mean the self-latching and self-closing mean locked? You know, because
It's the ones that close
yeah,
on it.
I mean, or do we care? I don't, maybe.
I think we do care that I think the state of the art is that the latches are high enough that a small child wouldn't be able to reach them.
Okay, so they don't,
And so I think
They have
that's,
Full close.
yeah. Oh, so
Yeah, they
that,
have to.
that's self-close. And then,
That's-
and then they latch when they close.
and that's the same thing with grandfathered in. Some pools don't have that now, but the newer ones have
I'm
that.
going to guess your insurance company would require that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So if it's self-latching and self-closing, it locks because kids can't get up that. Okay,
Hopefully,
yeah,
that's the.
I
that's the
see.
thought.
So this is the,
The permit requires them to show the fencing and how all that functions.
how it's gonna work. Okay, that's good.
I think installers today know what the rules are.
Yeah,
And I think that there've been a lot of improvements in recent years in that regard.
that's good.
Okay, so further discussion on ordinance 649 as amended. Not, we'll move to vote on the ordinance as amended. Dr. Furman,
Yes,
Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard.
Yes.
Okay, that motion, that ordinance as amended is approved unanimously. We'll ask Leonard if you would read the title.
Ordinance number 649, series 2025. An ordinance relating to the amendment and modification of chapter 154 swimming pools of the code of ordinances of the city of Prospect.
Okay, thank you.
Now. Just remember. There's a time we said no first reading after that.
Oh, so you thought that should become a first reading?
Yeah.
After that change?
Changing from green screen to the,
I don't think it's substantial enough.
oh, you don't? No, I thought you said it was. Okay.
No, I didn't think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good. Okay, next item on the agenda is second reading. Ordinance 650. That's the ordinance amending the budget for the municipal road aid fund of the city of Prospect. Is there a motion to give a second reading for that ordinance?
So move.
second,
And, Mr. Holmes made the motion. Dr. Furman seconded it. Is there discussion on the motion to amend the municipal road aid budget? Not, we'll move to a vote. Mrs. Leonard,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Evans. Yes. Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Dr. Furman.
Yes.
Okay, that is approved. I'm not sure who made the motion. David, would you give that ordinance a reading, please?
Ordinance 650, Series 2025, an ordinance amending the budget for the municipal roll aid fund for the city of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 651, series 2025. This is an ordinance amending the budget for the general fund of the city of Prospect. Is there a motion to give that ordinance a second reading and to approve it?
So moved.
Mr. Holmes made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Furman seconded. Is there discussion? Not, we'll move to a vote. Dr. Furman,
Yes.
Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Evans. Yes. Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard.
Yes.
All right, then we need that ordinance read. Sorry. David,
Ordinance number 651, Series 2025. An ordinance amending the budget for the general fund of the city of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is further discussion of the proposed budget for the coming fiscal year 2025, 2026 for the general fund, road aid fund, capital projects fund budgets.
So that'd be 652.
I don't know yet. So I just wanted to point out that you all received sort of a draft of the ordinance that I'm working on, that I propose that we sort of change the style of our budget ordinance to the ones before you. In the past, we've passed three separate ordinances: the general fund, the road aid, and the capital project fund. This document combines it into one. I will note that most other cities of our size do pass ordinances in this fashion for what's. I think personally, to me, it's a bit more understandable, and it includes all the dollars versus, piecemealing it over different ordinances. So this is obviously up to you as to whether you want to pursue it this way or not, but I just wanted to present that to you.
Actually, I think this is a great idea. The only concern I have when I look at it is there are certain things that can be funded by road aid and others that can't. And in the revenue section, I don't get into mental issues, but I do if we come down to expenditures. Because some of the expenditures cannot come out of the road aid fund legally. So I almost think we need another little section that clearly shows the expenditures are legally coming out of road aid.
It's a good comment. Let me suggest, Sandra, if you talk with John offline and work on that. We've got time. We'll have a first reading on June 2nd, and we've got.
Yeah, and this is, it's not a big deal. I just think
No, I think
to be
it's-
totally legal.
We want it to be as clear as possible, and we have to respect the law on how the municipal road aid funds are used. So we definitely want to account for that. But if you'll address that.
I'll review the street maintenance category, where it shows funding. I'm not 100% sure, but I think almost everything in that category is payable, but I'll have to double check.
I think it is.
Okay, if we had to, we can always make a separate one. We can talk about it.
So that's my suggestion. If people have other questions or comments, they're welcome to bring them up now or to bring them up at another time with John or with me. And then, of course, we'll have the first reading in June. So if it's okay, we'll move on to new business. The first item of new business is an application for approval of building plans to construct a commercial tenant building at 8907 US Highway 42. Wes Johnson is here to speak to that application. This is the Evergreen Liquors location that's going to be constructed next door to Gustavo's, owned by Gustavo's, and the tenant will be Evergreen. So Wes, if you want to step up.
Wes Johnson here, representing Gustavo Reyes, who will own the property here, who currently owns the property next to Gustavo's. That's here a month ago to review those plans. So here, happy to answer any questions today. It's a building on the out parcel lot right next to the current Gustavo's. It's a grassy lot now where Gustavo's has been using for like a bunch of overflow parking. So Evergreen Liquors, who's currently operating out of Prospect Point here, will be one of the businesses that we moved out in the event the public comes in. So they wanted to kind of get ahead of that curve. So we designed a building for them. Gustavo will own it, they'll lease it for him or from him.
So, yeah, let me address it for just a moment so everybody will kind of get caught up on how we got here. You came to us a couple of months ago seeking a letter to proceed or some term like that so that you could go to Metro.
Correct.
And you did go to Metro. They've approved everything.
Correct.
Then it comes back to us and we have to.
There's a letter of, we have to initially submit a set of drawings to the city of Prospect for what they call a letter of conformance, I believe is what it's called. And basically what it states is, hey, this type of construction, type of architecture fits in with what the city wants to see. We then take those plans, we develop them into build construction drawings, which is same look, but it's just got a lot more pages that we then submit to the city, Jefferson County then looks for a letter from Prospect to say, hey, we've met on this, we've seen the plans, we've approved them, you can now issue a building permit. So Jefferson County looked at City of Prospect almost as another agency. You know, they have to have the box check from city council before they will then issue the building permit.
And as a further reminder, this went to the Architectural Review Committee. They made suggestions and Gustavo made those changes. Wes made the changes in the drawings. And then that's what came to the council previously. And what we're looking at tonight is identical to what we looked at previously, I believe. John, is that correct?
That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Wes?
I was just wondering, so if it's gonna be in that grassy lot, like what are they gonna do with the parking? Is there gonna be enough parking?
In the front and the rear, I think there's 44 additional parking spots that are generated from the city of Atlanta. So not only is there additional parking, but there's also better circulation. So right now, there's currently one ingress, egress for Gustavo's. You pull in a big circle. Behind this current restaurant is a curb cut that will then connect over to the Evergreen Liquors as well as the preschool. And then in front of the building, currently in front of Gustavo's, there's some handicap parking, a few customer parking out front, and then that will connect as well with the parking lot. So it'll create a big loop. There's a plan that we've discussed here for a couple of years now in an attempt to get a rear exit. We are still pushing for that. We've just not received an even agreement through the adjoining landowner. But the hope is still that once they'll issue that, he's ready to have it. So they'll have great circulation, which Louisville Metro really likes, and then a couple of different ingress and egress points.
Any further questions for Mr. Johnson? Is there a motion to approve the building plans to construct the commercial tenant building?
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Furman made the motion to approve the building plans. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Holmes made seconded Dr. Furman's motion. Is there further discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Dr. Furman,
Yes.
Mr. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Wes. We appreciate it. The final item on the agenda of new business is first reading of ordinance 652, series 2025, An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a uniform franchise agreement. This ordinance would authorize the mayor to enter into a franchise agreement with Lumos Fiber of Kentucky LLC. Grace Simrel represents representing Lumos and is here to talk about this.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. As the Mayor mentioned, my name is Grace Simrel. I'm the Director of Market Development for a company called Lumos Fiber. You're probably saying to yourself, well, I haven't heard of Lumos Fiber, and that's because we're new to town. I am not. I've called Louisville home for 22 years. Prior to this role, I served as Mayor Greg Smithers, Chief of Civic Innovation and Technology for Louisville Metro Government for 7 years, focusing on things like increasing internet options for our residents. So a little bit about Lumos. They might be new to the market. They also are not new. They formed when two mom and pop telephone companies, one based in Virginia and the other based in North Carolina, each over 100 years old, merged together for expansion reasons. They had been building fiber to the home for residents since the mid 2000s. So in fact, in North State, Hyde Point, North Carolina, you could have had fiber to the home in 2007. They're looking at expansion. Their expansion efforts are significant. So in 2023, they announced South Carolina as its first expansion market. 2024, we announced Ohio, Kentucky, and Illinois. And so far this year, we've announced Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Southern Indiana. I might have missed some, but you get the idea. We're now in 10 states, again, significantly expanding our fiber operations. And why? Because residents want choices. Again, as someone who's very familiar with what residents can choose from in Jefferson County, most residents have a single option. It's probably Spectrum. There are some lucky residents that might have two options, Spectrum and AT&T fiber, for true high-speed internet options. But there isn't any other fiber option, and it certainly isn't everywhere. Lumos Fiber is building 100% brand new fiber optic network throughout Jefferson County, including, hopefully, in the city of Prospect, connecting residents. We know that there is the demand for it, and we would be very happy to provide another option for residents.
Let me mention, I had a coffee with the mayor. I've heard from a resident in Bridgepoint. This is over the past year to 18 months. Resident in Bridgepoint, I think 2 residents in Fox Harbor who have made the plea that we get fiber, have that option available. I contacted AT&T. They have installed fiber in Hunting Creek, in the states of Hunting Creek, and then a portion, but not all of Sutherland. And I think that's all they've done in Prospect. So I asked AT&T if they could share with me what their plans were and what areas they might expand to in Prospect. And they were very polite, but they would not share that information. They said it's a competitive environment and they make their plans, but they're not willing to share that information. So I'll second the idea there is demand for this additional option by Prospect residents. And I'll also mention, I had some questions about the ordinance, and John Clark had some questions that he posed to me. We arranged a meeting with Grace. I think we met on Thursday or Friday morning, and addressed the questions that John had, the questions that I had, and I was certainly satisfied with by the answers I received. Earlier this week when I attended, last week when I attended the JCLC meeting, I spoke with the mayor of Linden. The construction, if that's the right term, of the network in Linden is ongoing, and he was well pleased with the way that's going. He said they have to have a permit. They have to, the city inspects the work as it's done. And there are weekly meetings between Lumos, the team who's doing the installation, and city officials. So it sounds like it's well organized and moving forward. So there were some bumps in the road on how we got to this point, but at this point, I'm satisfied with what I've heard from Lumos and what I've heard from the other mayors. So are there any questions from council members for Grace?
Would you tell us the other cities that have signed the contract?
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for asking that question. So far, we have had, franchise agreements from Louisville Metro, St. Matthews, Linden, Middletown, Woodland Hills, Forest Hills, St. Regis Park, and tonight we're getting second reading in Shiloh. For cities that we are about to get second reading, Douglas Hills, Old Brownsboro Place, Blue Ridge Manor, and Braemar Deputy. So there are many cities who are signing on. There are many more that are now in first reading and in the process of granting the most.
And the ordinance that that's been proposed to us is identical to, I believe, the ordinance in Linden and several other cities.
Exactly,
Chris?
exactly. And I've reviewed it and approved it.
Could you touch briefly on the relationship with T-Mobile?
So thank you so much. I'm so glad I can finally speak about it so freely. Last year, back in April, T-Mobile announced it was entering into a joint venture with Lumos Fiber. And it was pending regulatory approval. Well, we received that regulatory approval. And so now going forward, T-Mobile is in fact a joint venture partner with Lumos Fiber. It doesn't really change anything from an operations aspect, construction or engineering, or even my relationship with the city. Lumos is the company doing the work. What we found favorable in terms of a joint venture is that everyone's heard of T-Mobile. I don't have to explain to anybody who T-Mobile is. And so they will be really fielding the marketing aspect and leveraging their retail stores for providing, again, additional customer support.
Thank you.
And what is this right here? I didn't understand.
Yes, the multicolored map. What it represents, at least from a Lumos standpoint, it's very high level, but each color coding is what we think of as a fiber distribution hub, how we group homes together. And what it indicates is, in fact, we're building out all of the residential areas on the Jefferson County side.
So can I ask you a question about the agreement? You may not have the agreement in front of you, so I don't know. Okay, so
Go ahead.
it talks about no changes, revisions, or additions to the communication services facilities identified in Exhibit A. And then Exhibit A says that there could be some changes.
So
Are you saying that if, as you're building it out, you need to make changes, you'll come back to us and talk to us about
that, but that language is actually really for several cities where we haven't, in this first phase, decided to go ahead and build those. So for example, the city of Woodland Hills, initially we weren't going to build out the whole city. And then through subsequent conversations and negotiations, we decided to go out ahead and build out the whole city. Since we're already building out all of Prospect on the Jefferson County side, it's less, but certainly if there were changes, we would come forward.
So the other thing on Exhibit A that concerned me, just because I thought it was an unusual choice of words, is that your initial plans are to impact houses and small businesses. What does impact mean to you in that context?
Both build and then provide service.
Okay, because impact could also mean harm. And that's what concerned me. I assume that if you have to dig in people's yards to do this, you will repair.
Absolutely. So just to be clear, most of our builds, let me back up. I always get ahead of myself. Look, our builds throughout Jefferson County is 80% underground and 20% on utility poles. The 20% are really going to be reserved for further pass areas, so railroads, highways. We really are buried underground with most of our fiber. We certainly intend to do that in Prospect. When we do that, it's in the public rights of way or in the public utility easements. When we do that, the fiber is in a duct, which is 1.25 inches in diameter, which is really not very wide. And then the drill head itself is probably about 2 inches in diameter.
So we'll dig a hole in the rights of way for the drill to go in. Then for 811 safety guidelines, we did what are called potholes. They're not potholes in asphalt, they're potholes in the grassy rights of way, so that we can watch the drill pass. So that we don't incur dangerous utility breaks, right? We really, especially for gas utilities, we want to make sure we're watching the drill head cross and not strike anything. When we're done, we do clean up. So that means, actually, before clean up, when we're digging these holes, we put down a plastic tarp, dirt and the grass go on that. After we're done, we put the dirt and the grass back, tamp it down, and then do additional seeding and strawing. If it doesn't take, and in fact, there are areas in Jefferson County right now that are not taking, we come right back. It is our responsibility to restore to the condition we found the property in.
So one last question. It talks about the benefit to the city of Prospect by agreeing to this franchise agreement. And that is that we will get a certain percentage of the revenue. And it has a maximum of 5%. How would it be less than 5%?
It's going to be 5%. I think there's an exhibit B that demonstrates that it's 5%.
It lists 5% as the tax rate.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you look.
No, I'm reading the contract. I'm not reading the attachment.
Right.
And the contract says for a maximum 5%.
And it's,
I'm wondering if it could be less than that.
Right.
And are all the other cities that you're agreeing with, is it 5%?
correct for the cities that are that have opted out of the state's telecommunication tax. It is
Which we have.
We have.
Okay, other questions or discussion?
I have a question. Have we seen this movie before? Wasn't there someone else a couple of years ago that came in with
Yes, but they didn't do a
optics?
very good job. They didn't do
Yeah, was it Amazon that came in?
That's Google Fiber. It was-
Yeah, what happened with that?
Oh, that's. That's why I'm here for that.
My question is, how are we going to avoid the same thing?
Part of it is again, the fact that this company has done this in many, many markets.
Amazon hadn't?
Fiber had not. It was very new.
They were brand new.
Okay.
So this is a company that has a 20-year history of building fiber to residents, 20 years of providing that service to residents. I am local. I know Jefferson County. And so what I tell everybody is part of what I think it sets us above and beyond our competitors is that I'm not going to contact. I'm not going to make you hunt back and try to find the right person. I'll make sure that all of you get my card before I leave and anything comes out. It's already happening. I have fairs and other elected officials reaching out to me. It's not a problem. I will take care of it.
I have a question if no other member does. What about green boxes above ground?
Again, that's a great question. So for the type of infrastructure we put in the rights of way, between property boundaries, it's a piece of infrastructure we call a flower pot. So it's flush to the ground. It doesn't stick up above ground. And the fiber is piled up in there, ready for a run to a customer's home once they call under service. Then we'll run that line to their home,
So it's flush with the ground?
flush with the ground.
And then what are the dimensions?
Dimensions.
Yeah.
They come in two sizes. We really try to use a smaller size most places, and that's 11 by 11. And sometimes we'll need a larger size for things like splicing, and that's 11 by 17. So that's what most people will see. It's something that's flush back to the ground. It's a light gray green color, which we've chosen so that it kind of camouflages for all 4 seasons. If it were bright green, it'd stand out during winter. But once grass is growing, you really notice it. I have something similar in my yard right now, a flower pot, and I barely notice it. It's something my husband can mow right over.
You mean you put a flower pot on top of it?
No,
It's just the name.
it's just the name. I don't know why they call them flower pots.
Okay.
They call them flower pots.
I think that's what AT&T, we've got essentially the same thing in Hunting Creek. And I think there's one in our front yard and one, they're around, they're pretty unobtrusive.
the ones that I have in my yard are the ones that Counselor was talking about, the big green things that stick up, and they're not attractive. This sounds much better.
Yeah, the old pedestals. So,
Yeah.
this is the old AT&T.
That's exactly
Still
what
up.
I thought.
Yeah.
And Spectrum,
that-
Spectrum uses them, so.
The landlines.
Yeah.
Well, Spectrum has green boxes also.
They do.
That,
Not when they hooked up to our yard.
okay. Okay, other discussion or questions?
I have one question. I remember the Google fiber did not go at very much depth. It was all haphazard going around cars. I remember all that. Is there a standard depth that you're putting your fiber?
There is, we run our fiber 24 to 36 inches below.
Okay.
ground.
So how many inches?
24 to 36 inches.
Okay, is there, now we've had asked a lot of questions. Is there discussion, further discussion by the council members?
So this ordinance authorizes you to execute
That's
the
correct.
franchise.
Well, and this
We're
is,
not approving the franchise.
that's right, and this is, well, it's an exhibit to the ordinance.
Right.
So
Sure, I know.
I think I know
But
what
you
my
can
marching
tweak it
orders
if you
would
need
be.
to
We
without
need to
coming
do-
back.
This is a first reading, so this will be back before the council if it's approved this evening.
I think
for further
somehow
consideration.
before the second reading, we ought to have some kind of public announcement. She's a great spokesperson for them and answers the question. And even if you brought one of the flower pots in, that would be very helpful because the things that we have sticking in our yard are not attractive.
What I could do is provide construction.
Our picture.
I think, because again, if I'm bringing a flower pot, it's literally sticking out of the ground, it would be hard to demonstrate that it's
Flush.
But I have photos, I have videos that I could share.
We'll figure out getting the word out to our residents and offering the opportunity to ask questions. And if there's sufficient demand, we could have a meeting to do that, but we may just get individual questions. Why don't we put out the word, ask people to get back in touch with us and then judge how we proceed, and I'll consult with you on that. Okay, are we ready to vote on the first reading? Mrs. Leonard?
We have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a
I
motion?
move that we
Thank you.
take this for first reading.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Leonard made the motion. John Clark seconded. Okay, thank you. All right, Mrs. Leonard,
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Gibson.
Yes.
Dr. Furman. Okay, that's approved by a vote of 6-0. And John, Carter and I will work on some announcement to the populace on what we're doing and solicit questions. We need somebody to read this, and that would be Sandra, I think.
I just already folded it up. Ordinance number 652, series 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a uniform franchise agreement.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the agenda. If there's no further business. We need to vote. You haven't voted? No, we did. We voted, so.
We did.
Okay.
And you did.
Oh, that's right.
Need a motion?
Sorry. No, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
If all are in favor,
Anyway.